Public Procurement Authority, Ejanim Boating Ejay. Also in the bulletin, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has ordered the constitution of a 7-member committee to probe the leaked audio recording of some persons purportedly plotting the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare. Details of these and many more coming up shortly. Do stay. Many thanks for your time. Let's begin from here, and I am Emmanuel Samani. Now, the Human Rights Division of the Accra High Court has dismissed an application by Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, aka Kwabena Edujemfi, which sought to restrain the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, from discussing him in relation to the National Cathedral project. Reverend Kusi Boateng, also known as Kwabena Edujemfi, filed the application under Article 33 of the 1992 Constitution seeking an enforcement of its fundamental human rights. But the court, presided over by Justice Barbara Teteshawe, held that the two distinctive identities, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng and Kwabena Edujemfi, meant it was not clear on which of the two identities sought the enforcement of the human rights law. Meanwhile, North Tongue Member of Parliament Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa said the judgment will give him more impetus to call for his resignation. He spoke on Ghana Tonight.
Earlier, it's a clear confirmation, and Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, Kwabena Edujemfi, whatever the true identity is, he should be immediately resigning from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees, or the president should fire him. He has absolutely no business remaining on that board. And this judgment gives me further impetus to continue with the investigations and the publications and the parliamentary oversight that I'm carrying out. And I'm particularly excited that this will have a positive bearing, obviously, on the conflict of interest petition at Shraj. Because what this means is that I did not put out falsehood, or I didn't fabricate when I said that he is one and the same person.
Meanwhile, the motion to have a full probe is still pending. Let's still stay in the courts, because the Accra High Court has dismissed a report by the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Raj, which made some adverse findings against the former CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, Ejanim Boating Ejay. Presiding Judge Audrey Tay ruled that Shraj breached the fair hearing rule by substituting parts of the complaints that was filed by anti-graft campaigners, that is the Ghana Integrity Initiative, with its own allegations. The court also held that Shraj failed to investigate the substantive complaints made by the complainant, but rather the commission focused on what they were not a part of, the submission of the GII complainant in the case. Now away from the courts, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has ordered the constitution of a 7-member committee to probe the leaked audio recording of some persons purportedly plotting the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare. The committee will have 3 members, each from the 2 sides of the House, with 1 technical person. The committee have been given 1 week within which to submit its report. The audio recordings captures voice of some top officials said to be the Ghana Police Service and the New Patriotic Party discussing Dr. Akufu Dampare. Take a listen first to Speaker Alban Bagbin. I will bring you that soundbite subsequently.
We need some of you who are very good in IT and other areas to submit your talents and skills to the committee for this work to be done. So I propose that we establish a committee of 7 members. Leadership will nominate 3 from each side of the House, and we'll get a technical person to add to make it 7. That's why I'm calling it a special committee, so that you investigate this matter and then submit your report. So I await the nominees from the 2 caucuses.
Meanwhile, security experts Dr. Adam Bonar said so many names were mentioned on the tape and could force the committee's sitting to extend. He, however, said not everything will be put in the public domain despite calls for a public hearing on the matter.
To the extent that the Vice President was indicted, the AG, the Attorney General was indicted, Gabi Otredakun was indicted, the Bedietu was indicted, Eugene Ahin's name was indicted. It is up to the committee to sit and do their own assessment and say, okay, there will be the need to find out, is it true that the Vice President is not in talking terms with the IGP? Would the committee have what it takes to call the Vice President to come and give testimony at the committee? I don't know. You see, the Speaker has given 1 week without preempting anything. If, depending on how the interrogation and the investigations go, it might go longer than 1 week.
Now, Chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Enes Edujemfi, says he is not surprised Ghana has dropped in the latest ranking of the World Global Peace Report. According to him, cases of civilians turning their anger, the least provocation, and attacking them has become rampant. He spoke on News 360.
What is of concern to us is that we have been displaced in the West African sub-region by Sierra Leone. And if you look at all the things that we put in place in Ghana as compared to Sierra Leone, we should have been way higher than where we are. But besides all these things, the other thing that we have to look at is the fact that sometimes some of these things come up as perceptions, and we need to be mindful of what we do and how we do certain things. For over a period now, we've had attacks on the security services. We've had the case of the shooting of the immigration officer in Boko. We've had the robbery attack where the policeman was shot. So what is happening is that civilians are now turning their attention now on the security services.
Well, Ghana dropped to 4th place in sub-Saharan Africa in the latest Global Peace Index. You recall that in 2022, Ghana was ranked the second most peaceful country in Africa. Ghana ranked 51st as the most peaceful country in the world per the 2023 Global Peace Index, down from 8 places. Now, President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Perpetual Ofori Ampofo, has alleged that immigration officers are intimidating nurses seeking to travel outside Ghana. An estimated 500 nurses seek clearance every month, according to the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. According to her, Perpetual Ofori, however, the nurses leaving are those who are well experienced. Listen.
It is a worrying trend that we are all experiencing. Our nurses are leaving the shores of Ghana. If I have my passport and I have a visa and I have my ticket to travel and I'm going through immigration, no immigration officer has any right to ask me of my resignation letter or any of such. It doesn't work that way. And people should not use any such means to intimidate our nurses and midwives who may be traveling. We are all Ghanaians, and we all seek to live better lives. Right. And how I choose to do it is my decision and mine alone.
The Veterinary Services Department will this morning begin a 2-day national rabies prevention campaign to vaccinate all dogs in a bid to curb the scourge in rabies. The 2-day exercise, which begins in Medina and its environs, will last for 2 days. Ghana recorded 153 suspected cases of rabies and 10 deaths in the first 2 quarters of 2023, according to the Ghana Health Service. The country recorded 462 suspected rabies cases, with 62 deaths within the same period between 2020 and 2022. Registrar of the Veterinary Council of Ghana, Dr. Kingsley Mikey Ayi, has called for sanctions for dog owners who fail to vaccinate their dogs.
Rabies is endemic and well established in all the regions of Ghana. There has been no decline in canine or human cases during the past 5 years. That is serious. The increase in the incidence of rabies in several parts of Ghana lately has been blamed on the low vaccination coverage. I already said it's 8.5%. That can be attributed to owner apathy, perceived high cost of vaccination, and failure to sanction dog owners who did not vaccinate their points.
To other news, and the Ghana Refugees Board says none of the Burkinabe asylum seekers have been repatriated. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, on Wednesday demanded the immediate halt to reported forced repatriation of Burkinabe nationals seeking refuge in Ghana by the government. This was, however, denied by the Ministry of National Security. Executive Secretary of the Ghana Refugee Board, Tete Paddy, said no such thing has taken place.
We have been involved in registering refugees and asylum seekers, and we've registered about 3,100 already. However, none of these registered asylum seekers, to the best of my knowledge, has been repatriated. So before we go into register any asylum seekers, we make sure we have security clearance. So to answer your question directly, we have collaborated very well with the security agencies. There is no cause for alarm in terms of the potential of registering people who are of security concern.
And finally, before we go, a multidimensional poverty report has shown that 25 countries halved multidimensional poverty within 15 years, but 1.1 billion remain poor, according to the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. The report says the most recent survey data that were publicly available for Ghana's MPI estimation shows 24.6% of the population, representing 80,089,000 people, were poor, while an additional 20.1% is classified as vulnerable to multidimensional poverty in 2021. Meanwhile, policy analyst at the University of Ghana, Benjamin Nsia, says government must increase social intervention efforts.
There has been an improvement, and this shows that the capital investment or the capital expenditure in the social services, that is education, health, and then standard of living, has yielded some positive results. However, even though we have had a positive and an improvement in our MPI, I think that with respect to the contributors of this multidimensional poverty, which is health and education, we are trailing behind sub-Saharan Africa. And that also means that we, as a country, we need to do more.
And on that note, we wrap up with the news here on 3FM 92.7. You can find more news when you do log onto our website. It's 3news.com. I am Emmanuel Samani. Take care of yourself, be well, and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.